Hello students, this is Shweta Roy. This video is for Chapter 3, Part 2, History, The Sultans of Delhi. In this video, we are going to discuss about the Khalji dynasty, the Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty, Lodi dynasty, expansion of the Sultanate, sources of history of Delhi Sultanate, the case study of the Khaljis and Tughlaqs, the three orders, the peace of God, knights and the crusades. So these are some of the important topics which we are going to discuss in this video. Now we will discuss about the case study of Khalji and Tughlaqs. They were having a decentralized form of government. Now during the time of Ghiyasuddin Balban, the central government had enormous power over the provincial chiefs. Now this helped them to further enhance the position of Sultan and exercise control over the nobility. Also, he had taken many reforms in armies. He also appointed loyal officers. This helped in the collection of revenue. Now, the strong central government has enabled Balban and his successors, the Khaljis, to defend India's borders against repeated attacks by the Mongols. Now, during the time of Iltutmish, the governors were appointed as provincial administrators. And these governors were also slaves and were specially trained for military service. And they were called Bandagan in Persian. Now they held important political offices in the kingdom. And they were often known as the clients to high political positions. These Bandagans proved very successful, yet they introduced an element of political instability to the Sultanate. Now, control of nobles. Now, there were slaves like Malik Kafur who were more loyal to their masters than the elite governors. And the appointment of slaves to high position helped to keep ambitious nobles in check. Now, when there was time of accession to the new monarch, there was always a conflict among nobles to favor one or other heir to the throne. Now, under the Sultanate rule, the noble and aristocratic class of people enjoyed great power and prestige. They had many special rights and they shared special relationship with the Sultan. Many of them came from the native land of the Sultan, and this was also the reason for the special rights. After that, there were few local nobles also. Now, the patronage extended to the slaves shocked many nobles and other elites. Now, the author of the Persian Tawarikhs have criticized the Delhi Sultanate sultans for appointing low and base-born people of humble origins to high positions. Then there is the Ikta system. Now, Delhi sultans developed a highly decentralized system of government. Land was granted to nobles and other important and influential peoples so that they can collect the tax. Now, the Khaljis and Tughlaq Sultan also granted this land to military commanders as governors of some territories. And this grant of land was known as Ikta. And the people who controlled these lands were called Iktadars or Muktis. Now, this was a kind of feudatory system, but it helped in giving legitimacy to Muslim rule. Now, the Muktis used to pay their soldiers from the revenue which they have collected. And there were other forms of land control like land tax, providing irrigation facilities, and undertaking reform measures. This was done in Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. And like this, you can see the land control reflected the governing style of the sultans that helped in revenue collection. Next is revenue collection. And the advantage of this system was resource mobilization. Now, the chief government officer were the wazir. They were the chief ministers. Wakile-dar were the controller of households. Amir-e-Dad were minister of justice. Amir-e-Hazib were officer in charge of royal household. Mushrif were the accounts officer, and Mustafi were the officer in charge of expenditure. There were Sahib-e-Warid, who were officer in charge of communications and intelligence. And these officers ensures that mustiks collected only the taxes which is prescribed by the state. And with the revenue, they were also supposed to maintain a required number of soldiers. Now, revenue collection system was modified during each period so that it can suit the need of particular rulers. It also laid great stress on rural economy. Now, under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control. Now, the Samantas and the rich landlords were also required to accept the authority of sultans. And this way, the Delhi sultans brought the hinterland of the cities under their control. Now, the people who worked on the lands, they remained very poor. The measurement of the land was also done by officials and the detailed account was kept. Some landlords and chieftains used to serve the revenue collectors and assessors. Sultans used to impose different kinds of taxes on people of different religious affinities. So there were three kinds of taxes: kharaz, jizya and zakat. Taxes were also charged on the cattle and on houses. The revenue collection was raised to about 50%. The rulers has penetrated deep into the countryside. Like this, the Muslim religion and culture spread very fast in the villages. They also It also helped to strengthen provincial administration. Regional kingdoms. So the Sultan used to depend on revenue collectors, chieftains, and the landed aristocracy for both his military and economic powers. There was factional disputes among the chieftains as well as within the royal family, which prevented them from controlling distant lands. Now the provinces like Bengal and Gujarat, they were often declared independence as they were annexed. After the annexation, they were declared independence because they were distant places. And the same thing happened with the Deccan and southern India. So there was a difficulty to control the distant places. So as they were annexed, after annexation only they were declared independent. Now the Ganga plain, the sultans could not penetrate certain forested areas because they remained under the rule of local chieftains. Local chieftains used to rule in the forest areas and sultans could not penetrate there. So this system only helped the local rulers but also ensured a continuity of Islamic empire. Now the rulers like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq, they tried to expand their empire far and wide, but that was only for short period. It was very difficult to control the distant places. Next is Mongol invasion. So during the Khalji rule, the Mongol invaded India several times and the invasion began in AD 1219. The leader was Genghis Khan. Now he was invading Transoxiana in northeast Iran, and after that he soon reached to Delhi. And after that, Delhi Sultanate also faced the Mongols invasion. Now this was there in the early years of the rule of Muhammad Tughlaq, and because of this the sultans were busy in the northwest. And many of the Mongols, they embraced Islam during this time and settled near Delhi. Now what was the failures of Muhammad Tughlaq? So if we go through the list of failures of Muhammad Tughlaq, it is very lengthy, and particularly the people did not have enough to satisfy their needs. The revenue was fixed as high as 50% of land produce. The peasant has to pay taxes and bribes to government officials. And the oppression of peasants, because of this taxation, the Muhammad bin Tughlaq is often cited as an example of harsh measures taken for revenue collection. Now many of the farmers in the Ganga Yamuna Doab, they fled to escape the tyranny of the officers. They had taken to robbery And many historians think that Mongol invasion was directly related to amazing of illegitimate wealth by many of the officials of the Sultan. Now we have the three orders, the peace of God, knights and the crusades. Now in the 11th century, the Bishop of France, Adalbero, conceived a society as consisting of three classes. And this was the first conception of unequal order in the society. Now, when we go through these three classes, people who used to pray were considered people of the first order. In the second order, the people who fought were there. Now, the people who tilled the land, they were considered as belonging to the lower order. And this was basically done to give the priesthood an exalted position. This system also represented feudalism, and by this time Europeans had a little conception of social classes. So the bishop prescription then led to the emergence of a warrior class of knights. So like this you can see three classes. First was people who used to pray, second was the knights, and third were crusades who tilled the land. Now later clergy who used to serve God, they occupied the first order. This clergy also patronized the knights and used them to propagate the idea of peace of God. By AD 1100, the conditions in Europe changed, and now the Europe monarchs were able to build strong empire with the help of knights. There was the changes in religion, society and politics also. The knights often fought among themselves. The monarchy and the church took this opportunity and used the knights to conduct campaigns against the Muslims who actually captured the city of Jerusalem. And these expeditions came to be known as crusade. This crusade word came from Latin word crux, means cross. And the crusaders who engaged in fighting had to take up the cross. And like this, the church completely altered the status of knights, and they did not originally belong to the class of nobles. And by 12th century AD, the nobles joined the ranks of knights. I hope you all understood all the topics taught in this video. Thank you.